Yeah.
Better. Took about 10 years off. Took all the
You can
wrinkles out of
glam
my
yourself.
face. It didn't fix everything, but you know.
I value this.
That's amazing.
I turned it up all the way. So
well, I'm going to find that Padlet link so that everyone that's here can start on the Padlet while we're waiting for everyone to get here.
I put my example in there for everybody.
Awesome. And then I'll introduce you once it's 2:15, once everyone is on.
Hey, Kendall, if any, Vox me or text me if anything is kind of wackadoodle.
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Rhonda. It's good to see everyone. This is our last and final session. So this one will be from 2:15 till 3:30, and then our day of learning here will be finished. So we're so happy that you joined us all day. It's not been a long day. I feel like it's gone by pretty quick actually, but for Saturday, you've hung on tight. It's awesome. So I want to just let you know that if you have just joined us, I dropped a link into the chat. I'll do it one more time for this Padlet that Wayne has set up to get us kind of started, and you can get into that and answer the question there while I introduce Wayne. And he's our presenter, our facilitator for this session, and then I'll start screen sharing and we can get going. So Wayne Adams is joining us here from Region 5, working with the Snake River School District. He's been an educator for 16 years, where he's had the opportunity to work as a 9th and an 11th grade teacher, English teacher, and 9th grade world history teacher. Currently, he is teaching English and an elective class called Outdoor Idaho to 7th and 8th graders, which I think that's such a cool opportunity. I want to teach that class. He is passionate about the outdoors, and outside of the classroom, you can find him enjoying his ATVs or camping. And so also, you feel free to introduce yourself in the chat with your name, where you're from, grade level, kind of like we've been doing at the intro to all of the sessions. And then I'll share some links in the chat as well for the presentation that Wayne will be using. And you can follow along there, or I will also be sharing my screen and you'll be able to see it there. All right, Wayne, you can go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thanks, Kendall. My name is Wayne Adams, and I have been working on this for 3 or 4 years. I've always wondered what it took to teach, a growth mindset. You read Carol Dweck and Daniel Pink and his book Drive, and all these, they explain that the people that are successful have it, and they give you examples of all the people that have resilience. But this is the first time I've read a book where it says, and here's how you do it, and here's how you improve, here's how you can move on. So let's take a look here and see what everybody put for. Looks like a few of you are still trying to get some synonyms in there for resilience. But yeah, perseverance, adaptability, determination, all those things are good. I always like to think of it as heart or grit. The resolve to keep going even if things get tough. And I think some of us have that resilience in certain areas of our lives, but others don't. Or we don't have it in other areas of our life. So Ken, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay. So we're on flipping the switch, resilience and the growth mindset. Can resilience be taught? I've always wondered if you could actually teach somebody that had a poor growth mindset or resilience in a certain area, teach them to get better at it, or if you could just improve resilience overall. And I've done a lot of reading to try to figure that out. Probably mostly just for myself. But what are the skills for resilience? Let me go ahead and start that video.
The Resilience Breakthrough, 27 tools for turning adversity into action. I'm Christian Moore. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've spent the past 20 years working with youth and families and organizations, helping them thrive. We live in a world today that has tremendous challenges, from mental health challenges to challenges in the workplace, in the community. And I noticed that resiliency plays a major role in helping people thrive and overcome some of the most adverse circumstances. While I was in college, professors told me that resiliency is something that you're either born with. It's something that either you have or you don't have. And I realized it was so important to teach people that they can learn resiliency. It's something that you don't have to be born with. It's an attribute that you can learn. As a social worker, I've always been fascinated by, you have two people, they grew up in the same home, the same neighborhood, the same background. One kid makes it out and thrives, and the other person doesn't thrive. What's the X factor? I wrote this book because I found that if we know exactly where resiliency comes from, we can identify why one person thrives under one situation and another person maybe doesn't thrive under another situation. So by knowing where resiliency comes from, we can identify what enables people to thrive. I wrote the book to show people how to transform pain into fuel. I realized that some of our worst problems can literally become our best friend. But for your worst problems to become your best friend, you have to know how to channel pain into fuel. Please pick up my book, The Resilient Me, that resilient.
All right. Hey, I just noticed that Tristan Lyman is on there. You teach in an area that I would love to teach. I would move to Sandpoint in a heartbeat. We go up there and spend about 10 days every year. But anyway, what is resilience? How can we be more resilient? And I'm a big movie buff. I love to watch I'm a big time Avengers fan, and their Captain Marvel has become one of my favorite characters, just because of her resilience. And in the movie, a little clip that we're going to watch here in a moment, she has been beat down. It shows all the times in her life that she has failed over and over and over again. And then it goes on with this clip. And I think it's a great movie, but it's especially good for, I think, for young girls to watch. And I had a lot of really good talks with my daughters over this. So anyway, if we could go ahead and play that clip.
You're right. I'm only human.
On Hala, you were reborn. Veers.
My name is Carol.
She's trying to break out.
been fighting with one arm tied behind my back. But what happens when I'm finally set free?
All right, that's good. Thank you.
You know you.
So here are some skills for resilience and some things that we can do. And I'm just going to talk about the four things that he starts with in his book. He says there's actually 27 tools for turning adversity into action. And one of the things that he talks about right at the beginning of the book is a visit that he made to a bunch of inmates. And these were young men who had been convicted of rape, murder, and armed robbery, and drug dealing, and things like this. And he walked into the room, and they all looked at him like, "We're not going to learn anything from you." And they couldn't figure out why this little pudgy white guy was standing there, and he's going to teach him something. And he couldn't think quite what to say right at first, so he just started flipping the switch on the wall, off and on, off and on, off and on, until they all started paying attention and looking at him. And then he told them that an inmate can have an advantage over a Harvard graduate. And I've thought about this a lot. And the thing that surprises me, I think, more than anything else, is that the anger, the fear, the guilt that these inmates may have never experienced, that they have felt, will probably never be experienced by a Harvard graduate. They don't have that deep anger, deep fear, or guilt. And he taught these young men that they could use that anger, this guilt, and the fear to use it to the strength that gives you, turn it into a strength, make it a positive. Decide to use the energy that creates for good instead of more bad. And I think it really gave them an opportunity to see that they do have an advantage over other people. And I think all of us have advantages in certain areas. So if you look at it as an advantage instead of a negative, I think that's a powerful mind change to see it as an advantage. Quit looking at our weaknesses and problems as problems and weaknesses, but as an advantage that we might have over somebody else that's never had that experience. The other thing that I think about a lot when I start looking at this stuff is the secret to success is failure. A master and a novice. The only difference between a master and a novice is that the master has failed thousands of times more than the novice. And it's an interesting way to look at it. And then there's a really good movie called The Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito. If you're an English teacher, you need to have seen this. And if you haven't, take a look at it. It's one of those, it's like Dead Poet Society, or I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that you just have to watch if you're an English teacher. But anyway, the choices, he said in the movie at some point, he was talking to a bunch of young men that were in basic training that hadn't graduated from high school. And he was trying to help them get their GED so they could stay in the Army. And he said, the choices we make dictate the life we lead. We can make all the choices in the world. We can choose whether to be positive or negative. We can choose whether to use the anger to do something good or bad. But we do not get to choose what happens when we make that choice. You make the choice, but you have no control over what happens afterwards. And I think it's a really powerful concept to remember, no matter what we're doing in our lives. Okay, first step, combat denial and acknowledge that there is a problem. This sounds like a step from a 12-step program or something for addiction, but it is an important part of this also. Realize that you are angry. You could do something different this time. Realize the reality of your pain. Try to decide whether it's a true crisis or a simple day-to-day problem. If it's a real true crisis, it's going to be a little bit harder to flip the switch, but it's also probably even more important to flip the switch. If it's just a simple day-to-day problem, it's not a bad idea to still go ahead and try to do something positive with it, even if it's just a little thing. Keep things in perspective. Don't get bogged down in negativity, and you can do something, even something simple or small will help you out. Try to flip the switch, even if you just flip it a little bit, and then help your students and coworkers see past that denial too. Help them, help them acknowledge that there is a problem and that they could face it in a different way this time. Do something different than they've done before. So I'm gonna have you do another Padlet here, and hopefully you can put, Kindle has put that in the chat link. I'll get it there real quick. And then what is it? What are your areas in your life or your students' lives that cause pain, frustration, anger, anxiety, activity, guilt, whatever it is that you can look at. And I'll go ahead and down a couple of my own. I'll give everybody about 2 minutes here to do that. Okay, there's a good one. Family struggles, guilt, regret, long-term relationships. Mean words from classmates cause pain all the time for kids. Trauma, hurt feelings. Yeah, a lot of people suffer from childhood trauma. And I think of, we all have examples in our own families where people have been hurt. It just seems to linger with them for the rest of their life. What if you could take those feelings and turn them into something positive? And you see people that do that. Death of a family member, lack of control, home life, feelings of inadequacy. Yeah, I felt that way today a little bit. This whole thing is a big switch foot for me. I am not a big fan of doing stuff on Zoom. I look on the video, all kinds of stuff. People that don't respect boundaries, fear of parents going back to jail or rehab. Quite a bit of that. We have some kids in our district that are on that road. Negativity of coworkers. We talked a little bit about that too. Negativity of administrators is even worse because then it causes all the coworkers. But yeah, those are some good things. Parent support, lack of communication. Good. And then I see myself getting over small pet peeves, things that I shouldn't worry about. And
Wayne, I'm hearing some people saying they're having trouble hearing. I'm wondering if you can move your microphone a little closer to your
We good
Maybe
there? Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. For me.
Okay. It's just a little far away, I guess. Sorry. And then, so step 2, now that we've realized that we have a problem and that we need to work on it, ask yourself if, ask yourself the flip switch question. How can I use this emotional pain, challenge, or situation to better my circumstances and make me more resilient? Today, this hour, this minute, this second. So I thought about this the other day. I got up, I was walking around the house, and one of my big pet peeves is people just leaving stuff laying all over the place. And my wife has piles. I tell her that she has hoarding tendencies. And she's probably the most brilliant woman that I've ever met. And I love her to death, but she drives me nuts. And you guys probably all have this same kind of thing going on with your spouses or significant other. There's things that they do that just drive you nuts. And she had her piles sitting there, and she left some stuff in the bathroom. She left some stuff in the hallway, and left some stuff by the bed. I was starting to get angry about it. And I thought, well, you know what? I've been sitting here talking about this flipping the switch thing to everybody. What could I do? How could I flip the switch? And so I realized that it was my problem, not hers, in the long run. It's a stupid thing to get worked up about. So, I had that realization. And then I thought, what can I do? What can I do right now to flip the switch? Rather than being angry, how could I flip that switch? So it could be just something simple like that when you're working on this kind of stuff. And then ask your students or colleagues this question when they need to flip the switch. What can you do about it? How could you use that energy that's created right now to do something positive? And I think the students, especially my 13-year-old students, they get angry a lot for some reason, or annoyed. And I think if they could learn to focus that energy, it would be a powerful tool for their life. Okay, go ahead and next slide. So then you got to do the opposite of what people would normally do in that similar situation. Even if your usual response is understandable or valid, if somebody just about wipes you out on the highway, it can make you angry or scared, both. You can turn the situation on its head, turn a bad into a good, pain into power. Make that negative energy positive energy, and let students and coworkers know they have a choice. And when I was getting angry with my wife the other day, I said to myself, you know what? And I pretended she was sitting there, and I said, you know what? I've got your back. I can do this for you. You do all this other stuff for me all the time. You work full time just like I do. I can pick up after you a little bit, and it's not going to hurt me. And it took me maybe 30 seconds to pick everything up, put it in the hamper, or back where it was supposed to be. And I felt better. and I know it made her feel better when she came home and everything was clean and nice, and she didn't have to worry about it. And so I just did something that was totally opposite of what I usually did. I decided to do something for her rather than worry about me. And it turned my whole day around. Okay, next slide. Pay attention to how you feel inside when you decide to flip the switch. I was more energized, and I felt helpful, and I was motivated that day because that simple little experience. You become inspired to keep flipping the switch to try it in other ways. You become more aware. And the one thing that's really powerful is you are in control. You have more control over what's going on. You don't let the anger and the things just wash you down the stream. A true friend is what you can become, a mentor, a teacher, a leader. And I think those are all powerful things that we all want to become. All right, next one. Okay, here's an example. Administrator who doesn't understand leadership. They might micromanage your classroom, monitor all of your comings and goings. They talk about your mistakes and supposed poor performance with other teachers and schools. only points out negatives, rarely encourages, and then uses whatever she is reading to try and motivate staff without understanding what it is they've read. And so you can kind of feel how negative that whole environment would be. Okay, next one. Okay, I'm sure you'd all agree the culture this administrator would create is toxic. How would you, or how could you flip the switch in this environment? So you've got to go through the steps. You've got to acknowledge, don't deny. I'm going to break you into groups here, or Kendall's going to break you into groups. And we're going to acknowledge and don't deny, don't ignore it. And then how can I use this challenge or this pain right now? And the opposite of normal. I mean, normally we do certain things, but what are you going to do that's just different this time? And then now, how do you feel? So we'll go ahead and break into these groups for about 5 minutes and see what you guys can come up with as far as these things. And then I want one of you to kind of take the lead when you get back, and we'll have you turn on your mic and share with us what you found out in your group. welcome back. I had to unmute myself. So what did we come up with? How many groups did we have, Kendall?
I have to find myself to unmute. Let's see. I think we had a handful, maybe four or five. I can double check.
Let's
6. We had 6 breakout rooms. We have a good amount of people at this one.
okay. We'll go ahead and if you were designated or lost the thumb battle or whatever it was to decide who was going to talk about what you came up with, go ahead and share out.
Okay, I'll go first. So in our group, we discussed how we could use positivity. Look at it in a more positive manner if we were in that situation. We also talked about leading by example or kind of leading by example, just being an example by like giving them thank you cards for doing the good things that they do so that they can see that there's positive in the school, so that maybe that could transfer on to other people and them seeing it that way. And what was the last one? It was offering to read the book that they're reading and have a book study so that maybe they see our perspectives of how that's supposed to be read and taught. That's what I remembered. So
Very good. Who's next?
I'll go. My name's Kareth, and I'm representing Group 2. Whoop, whoop. We talked about how in such a negative environment to flip it on its head instead of, the normal, natural, valid thing to do would be to get together as a staff and bash the administrator and say how awful they were and things like that. So to flip it on its head, do something really positive. And one thing that someone said in my group was to reframe our own brains by saying, just like me, they, and then 3 things that they connect with on just a human level with that person. And that helps build empathy and understanding for what they're going through. And then also as a more outward approach, there could be like an impromptu sticky note bulletin board that goes up in the teacher workroom or teacher lounge, where teachers write out positive things to each other, encouragements, things that they've noticed about each other, achievements. And those go up, and of course that'll spread throughout the school, because if you get a positive sticky note that someone noticed something great about you, then you're going to want to write a couple for other people. And hopefully the administrator would see that and see that positivity is stronger than the negativity that they're creating.
Very good. Anybody else want to share out? We'll take one more before we move on here.
We forgot to designate a speaker. We talked about approaching, if it was something specific that you know about, approaching the administrator to find out how you can do better or fix the situation. If it's something that you can fix, if it's something personal and it's uncomfortable, sometimes you just need to move on. But we were saying, be a good positive staff and it will spread the culture as well. But anyway.
Very good. Thanks, Teresa. And I hope that you're all I really liked the thing about the 3 things that you have in common, and being able to work with that. Start on something positive that you share with that person. It's really good. Okay, this happened to be a real situation, and it was a principal that I worked with, and we did, like somebody said, we all sat around in the hall, talked crap about this person, complained about everything that was going on, what an awful leader he was, all this stuff. And one day, towards the, middle of the year, I had just had enough, and I thought to myself, why am I being negative about this? Why are we all sitting here in the hall? And I said that to everybody. I said, we've got to do something about this. We can't just keep doing this. And I decided, and this is before I read the book, and I didn't even know I was flipping the switch, but I was just tired of the whole situation. And so I realized there was a problem. I looked at, like, what could I do right now, just me personally. I don't, I can't control what he's doing, but what do I control? What can I do? And then we had already done all the normal things. We had gone to the school board. We'd gone and talked to him individually and as a group, 2 or 3 of us. We had talked to the superintendent. We'd even started going through the process of doing formal complaints and getting dates and times of when things happened, what was happening, and nothing was working. He was really good at schmoozing everybody and looking like he was really positive when he was in a school board meeting or talking to the superintendent or talking to parents. And so I decided to do something different. I went around and just every morning started saying hi to everybody, all the teachers, asking them if there's anything I could help them with, trying to be positive. Started high-fiving all the kids in the hall, doing all kinds of positive things. And it was amazing, the turnaround. And it eventually drove this administrator away. He couldn't handle all the positivity and all the good feelings that were going on, and everybody was just kind of ignoring everything that he was doing. And he left, and he's not an administrator anymore. He's just teaching school somewhere now, I guess. So, which is kind of scary at the same time. But it goes to show that you can do something totally opposite and have it make a big change. All right, let's go on to the next one. All right, here's an example of a student who just can't seem to get an assignment done. They're late for class or misses class regularly. They're disruptive. They talk constantly. They're on the move. They seem to always be off task, either on their phone or surfing the web if they've got Chromebooks out. Calls to parents, referrals to the principal don't seem to be working or having any kind of an effect. Those are the normal things that we would do. And then they rarely turn in homework or classwork, lots of zeros. So once again, let's break into groups for about 5 minutes. And yeah, go ahead and go to the, And how would you help the student flip the switch? How do we help them pass the denial? How can they use this challenge or pain right now? Maybe we need to identify the pain. How can we help them see the opposite of normal? Now, how do they feel? We've got to help them understand how they're going to feel afterward, and then recognize when that happens, and then help them realize that something good just happened and they feel better. And then how will this improve the situation? So go ahead and break into small groups, keeping in mind we're talking about this student that just doesn't seem to want to do anything and just seems to cause problems in your room every day. And I think we've all got examples of that in our classroom, unless you're a lot better All right, I guess we're back. At least most of us. We're still coming back. All right, so let's hear from a couple of groups that haven't had a chance to talk with us yet. Somebody that hasn't spoke up. Just go ahead.
I can share for my group. We talked about, so I think that the natural thing to want to do when you have a student like that is it's tiring for you and it wears on you. So your natural response is to want the problem to go away. But our group talked a lot about finding some way that you can connect with the student. And if you can find a way to connect with them, then they can perform better for you. We also talked about having challenges, trying to talk to students about trying to get to the root of the problem and figure out what's really going on, and that can be a challenge. So that I guess is a question that could be further explored. And yeah, mostly we talked about building connections with the students.
Good. Build that trust with them. That's important. Anybody else?
I'll chime in. Our group reported before, but I'd like to report again. I shared with my group, we're doing a book study right now. I'm the instructional coach for our district, and we've been doing a book study on positive discipline tools for teachers by Jane Nelson. And the idea behind this is that all students need a sense of belonging. And that's one of the basic needs that we have as human beings, is to feel like we belong. And one way to do that, as the previous person said, was to make those connections with students. That's just so important to do that, to connect with students in one way or another. Because yeah, kids won't learn. It's hard for them to learn if they don't feel that sense of belonging. And I kind of used an example. Well, let me back up. One of the other members of our group talked about that they're doing a trauma study in their district because students have a hard time learning also if there's been trauma in their lives. And so, which reminded me of my childhood. And I lost my parents, one when I was 10 and one when I was 11. And I moved from Utah to Idaho with an aunt and uncle. And was I ready to learn? I just wanted to feel a sense of belonging in my new world with new parents and new friends and new school, new everything. And so I didn't do well in school, and they wanted to hold me back. The principal and the teacher and my parents met, and they wanted to keep me in 7th grade again. And I cried because I'd made friends, and that was the most important thing to me. And so they let me go on, and I was on the honor roll the next year. So, but it just that hierarchy of needs that Maslow has established, if those needs aren't being met in students, then it's hard to reach them in any other way, whether it's safety, their food, their clothes, just those basic needs need to be met first. And in this book, Positive Discipline Tools for Teachers, they also talk about if students are acting a certain way, then they usually have a mistaken goal of, and it might be that they're angry or different things. And so it kind of gives you clues as to what to look for and how to solve those problems for them. It's a great book. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Good. Could you type that title of that book and the author into the chat?
You bet.
Great. That's good stuff. Always looking for another book to try.
Oh, this is a good
share. So here's kind of what we did, or what I've done as far as that student. I had a student in my class who would just not write anything for me. Wasn't turning anything in. It was driving me crazy. But he was always writing in his notebook. And I finally just sat down with him one day and held him after class, and I said, "You're writing all the time. How come you won't write for me?" And he said, "I don't like to do all that stuff you're doing." And I says, "Well, what are you writing all the time?" And he says, "I'm writing a book." And I said, "Okay, well, then for your paper, you turn in a chapter of your book. And he was like, really? And I go, yeah, do it. Turn it in on all it. I'll help you edit it. We'll revise it and we'll, try to make it better. And he goes, that'd be awesome. And so all of a sudden I found his niche, his thing that made him excited about it. And later on, I was actually able to get him to do a couple of the assignments. So I just felt like it was a win all the way around. And I got to enjoy some really good writing. He was actually a really good writer, and that's unusual for an 8th grader to be able to write that well. So it was fun for me, and it was good for him. And I think it was really important for me to help him acknowledge that when he did flip the switch and he did finally turn something in, I was really quick to give him some good positive feedback about that and say, man, that was good. So glad you got that turned in. And this was some of the best writing I've seen all year. And I pointed out some of the things that I really thought were good. And it was an amazing experience. And, but anyway, all right, looks like that book, that Whole Brain Teaching, has been posted there. So thank you for that. Okay, let's go next one. Let's talk more about being, we might be done early. Is that gonna hurt anybody's feelings really bad? Okay, I didn't think so. Let's talk about being more human. And let's talk about flipping the switch. Flipping the switch also helps you be more human, kinder, more authentic, more willing to reach out to others. And it gives you the ability to connect with people in a very authentic way. Being more human draws people to you and leads to better relationships, which increases your resilience and gives you more options. And that was right out of Christian Moore's book, The Resilience Breakthrough. So it allows us to be human, and it kind of goes back to Captain Marvel and her taking the little device off of her neck, and it was kind of her flipping the switch moment. And when she did that, she realized that she had been fighting with one hand tied behind her back. And I think we have all had times in our lives when we felt like we were held back or we just didn't know what to do. And this is just a really simple 4-step process to try to look at things in a new way, try to become better. Okay, go ahead to the next one. Okay, I want to let you guys take about 10 minutes right now. And I want you to reflect on this stuff. I want you to pick a challenge in your own life where you feel you could use a good flip of the switch, set an actionable goal, and using the 4 steps that we've learned today, a goal or 2 that would benefit you personally or as a professional educator. Then maybe if you have time, I'd like you to reflect on how you could teach these steps in your classroom for the benefit of your students, and put these ideas into your notes or into the conference note catcher. So I actually did this presentation with my 7th graders. I changed the examples around a little bit, but we went through this with them, and it was a kind of an eye-opening experience for them, because I don't think they'd ever had anybody talk to them about changing their anger or their frustration into something good and flipping that switch over to a positive aspect. So go ahead and take about 10 minutes, and about 20 after, we'll go ahead and have, I'll say a couple things, and I think we'll be about done at that point. Unless Kendall comes up with something really cool that she thinks we need to talk about. Okay. Anybody need another minute or two, or are we good? I don't want to be here any longer than we have to. Okay, one last movie clip. Got to have another movie clip here to end things off. Big fan of Rocky, so let's listen to what he says about resilience.
Oh, look who's here. Have you seen your father? In the back. Unbelievable. You're doing good. You're right? Excuse me. How you doing? Glad you come by.
Can I talk with you?
Sure.
Can we do it outside? So you're going through with this?
Yeah, I start training tomorrow.
Hey, Rock, I made some connections. I could make some money on this, endorsements.
Absolutely, do that.
Thank you, Rock.
Sure.
Okay.
So you nervous about the fight?
They're scared to death.
You don't look scared?
Well, you ain't supposed to.
Then you don't have to do it.
Yeah, well, I think I do.
You know, living with you, it hasn't been easy. People see me, but they think of you. Now with all this going on, this is going to be worse than ever.
It don't have to be.
No, sure it does.
Why? You got a lot going on, kid.
But what, my last name? That's the reason I got a decent job. That's the reason why people deal with me in the first place. Now I start to get a little ahead. I start to get a little something for myself, and this happens. Now I'm asking you as a favor not to go through with this, okay? This is only going to end up bad for you, and it's going to end up bad for me.
You think I'm hurting you?
Yeah, in a way you are.
It's the last thing I ever wanted to do.
I know that's not what you want to do, but that's just the way that it is. Don't you care what people think? Doesn't it bother you that people are making you out to be a joke and that I'm going to be included in that? Do you think that's right? Do you?
You ain't gonna believe this. But you used to fit right here. I'd hold you up and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew. And you grew up good and wonderful. It was great just watching you every day. It was like a privilege. Then the time come for you to be your own man and take on the world, and you did. But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. I'm always gonna love you no matter what. No matter what happens. You're my son, you're my blood. You're the best thing in my life. But until you start believing in yourself, you ain't gonna have a life. Don't forget to visit your mother.
Waiters always look at me and think that I'm going to have a little salad, maybe a soup, and that'll be the whole meal. And when I
All right. Hey, thank you guys. I think Rocky Jr. there needs to flip the switch a little bit. And I think his dad's helping him do it there in that scene. But I love the part where he says it's not how many times you can get hit and knocked down, but how many times you can get up after you've been knocked down. And I think this gives us some, just 4 little steps, gives us some tools so that we can get back up. And I mean, I don't always do this. It's not like it's fixed everything in my life or anything, but it's a great tool when I do recognize that I'm in a situation where I can flip the switch. I think it's made a huge difference in just some really simple things and in some really big things in my life. And I hope you guys can take this, integrate it into your classroom a little bit, help out with your students and with your coworkers, and that you can use these 4 steps to just really improve your teaching and your professional life. And I am glad I had this opportunity, even though it stressed me out to death, and I had to really flip the switch a bunch of times to get this done. But I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate your comments. And thank you, Kendall, for helping me with the technology stuff. And you guys have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wayne. You did a fantastic job. I really appreciate all the this message. I need to flip the switch a lot. So I think it's so powerful. Before everyone signs out, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming to the conference today on behalf of everyone here at the ICN. And you will be receiving a conference follow-up email within the next couple of days. And I just wanted to let you know that you could access in the email, you'll be able to find how to access all of the other on-demand sessions. So if there were other sessions you were interested in at the same time as one that you went to today, you'll be able to access the recordings for those. And then also in the email, we will send information on registering for any BSU credits if you are registering for that. And then we also will have a link to a conference survey in there that we really hope that you take so that we get additional feedback from you all. So thank you all for such a wonderful day of learning and for sharing so many insight and resources that you all have connected to this topic today too. Such a great group of educators really lifting each other up in this session. I loved it. And enjoy your Saturday, the rest of the Saturday you have, and a full day Sunday. And thank you all. Jamie, I'm just seeing your question. Yeah, it will have information for registering in that email.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.